Good Monday morning, everybody. Hope you had a profitable and enjoyable weekend. Jim Lives here with Sean Miller. Trying to get my tongue stuck there. Sean, we watched some interesting football, both of the American kind and the European kind over the weekend. Some of your thoughts from the games we saw.
I mean, the four best teams are left in the NFL. I think that's pretty clear at this point. I thought the Bengals were a little bit disrespected all week and basically all year as the reigning AFC champions. They didn't give, there's that should have been a neutral site game. I think that the fact that it wasn't a neutral site game gave Cincinnati even more fire to go and win that game. So I thought that was interesting. The Eagles are good. The 49ers are pretty good. The defense, obviously, so that's going to be offense, defense. Mahomes is going to be nowhere near 100% in that game, and they can't beat the Bengals with Mahomes 100%. So I think that's pretty interesting. That
He's
line,
got that high ankle sprain, which is difficult.
yeah. Look, I mean, he's gonna. The line is -1. I think that'll change. The Bengals will be favored. I think at some point they're going to have a problem with I think that's going to be an issue. So we'll have to see how.
Well, the question is, can Mahomes beat you as a pocket passer? The answer to the question is yeah. I mean, of course. However, it's not his it's not his game. His game is extending plays and basically running. He's basically, that's his stock and trade. I don't think that the pocket passing Patrick Mahomes is the guy that can beat a Bengals team that gave Buffalo a big bang on the head. And you're right, they feel disrespected. I'm sorry. And rightfully so. I mean, a lot of people gave them up for dead. And yesterday, in Orchard Park, in the middle of what was a lovely snowstorm, it played to their advantage. I mean, they were up 14-0 before Buffalo woke up. And when you have, when Joe, maybe it's me, but I'd like your opinion. Right now, to me, the best quarterback in the NFL is Joe Burrow.
Yeah. He's since he took over Joe Burrow, the week 3. He took over the play calling. They've been a different team. They've been dominant. So yeah, I
mean, we're talking about a Buffalo team. They're playing on the road in Buffalo in a snowstorm, and the Bengals score 6 out of the 8 drives they had, and the 9th drive was a kneel down. So that's 64% of the time they scored, and you're going to win 66. And they only had 2 penalties in the whole game, and they also dominated, which surprised me to an extent. They dominated both lines, considering the fact that they actually had 3 guys on the starting offensive line that were not, didn't start the week before. Those were guys who were filling in, and they still blew away. I mean, they had 175, 176 rushing yards against Buffalo. So it was I don't know how much more dominant you could be than what the Bengals did yesterday. And as we said, it's disrespectful. They will play next Sunday, in Kansas City. So it'll be a Kansas City showdown, and they're 3-0 against Kansas City. So we'll see how that plays out. On the weekend, there's a lot of soccer that was played. What were some of your observations on the round ball getting kicked around?
So Bayern Munich came back and drew on Friday, so they need a little bit of time to get back. I don't understand why they're the second choice to win the Champions League. I thought Manchester United went toe-to-toe with Arsenal. They just ran out of gas. They missed Casemiro, but they just – they're 6 months into this rebuild, and Arsenal's 4 years in. So they won the aggregate 5-4 over the course of the two legs, if you want to say that. But they were in the game all the way till the end. This week felt like a little bit of a letdown act for Manchester United after Sunday, after last week, because they had a chance here to kick on. They gave up 2 late goals. If they pick up 7 points from those games, they're in good shape. But nobody's, the top 4 right now is going to be the top 4. There's no way anybody from below them is gonna catch them. I think United probably finishes 3rd, Newcastle 4th, but it's Arsenal's title to win at this point. In the other leagues here, you see some of the games. Saturday. Liverpool, Chelsea was, first of all, finished the Premier. Liverpool, Chelsea, they're both terrible. They're washed at this point. I don't think either team is going to do anything this year. Liverpool might finish 5th or 6th, unless they spend really heavily here in the next 10 days.
I don't see that happening, though.
No. They're in the middle of a sale. Everton, Lampard's going to get fired. Who's the next coach to come in? West Ham, Moyes saved his job, but they're not any good. And Spain, Barcelona picked up a huge win, 1-0 over Getafe. It was an early goal, and Real Madrid went on the road to Bilbao and won. I thought that was pretty big. Juventus, the biggest news of the whole weekend is Juventus imploding.
Yeah.
That they're a disaster now. Dropped 15 points. That whole league is a disaster. You look at Juventus now. They're back down into 9th after a 15-point penalty. And they're not going to make the Champions League at this point. They're going to have to sell everybody. That league is a disaster. Napoli's going to win the league. They're up by 12 points now, and they're going to sell their best players after the league is over. So, that league is falling apart. It's I don't want to say, the guy here from the Italian expert,
right.
Juventus, the guy, look, the main reason that Agnelli was pushing for the Super League is because he knew Juventus was an absolute disaster behind the scenes. And when that Super League fell apart, so did Juventus, and so did Barcelona, and so did, Barcelona is still above treading water because they sold, half their club. They don't have any more levers to pull at this point, but that's just kicking the can down the road. Juventus, there's nowhere else to kick the can. They're broke, and that whole league is a disaster right now.
Amedeus.
Amedeus. What do you Napoli's up 12 points there, and they're going to have to, as soon as the league's over, they're going to have to sell all their players.
Juventus sucks, though. I keep saying Juventus sucks. They're not a real contender.
They don't have any money. Well, now they're not, because they got docked to 15 points, so they're down to 9th. But they're just a shell of what they used to be, because clearly behind the scenes all this stuff was going on that I guess they knew and they were trying to hide. But now Napoli is being investigated over the Osimhen deal, and I think the league is a lot worse off than they're saying. So
yeah, it's always been bad though. Like this we've seen stuff like this before. Juventus back in 2010 when they got knocked down for mob collusion. Like none of this surprises me coming from the Italian league. It's an absolute mess, and that's why I wonder why sports books and things like that consider, City a Power 5 league or a power league in the European soccer, but France isn't a power league, and they only get 2 Champions League spots. Like, you're telling me we should be sending 4 teams from Germany and Italy? Give me a break.
Well, there aren't 4 teams in Italy that should make it.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? Like, other than Napoli and maybe the 2 Milans, like Atalanta's not a good team, Juventus is not a good team, Lazio is not a good team. Like, these are just mediocre teams. In France, there's more competition in France right now between Marseille, Lens, and PSG. Like, honestly, if anything, France deserves 4 teams there going in, because then you look at Germany, who gets 4 teams. Like, other than Bayern Munich, not a single team in that league belongs in Champions League. Are you kidding me? And like, don't even get me started on the Leipzig game on Friday, because they basically they screwed Bayern so hard in that match. I mean, Bayern played like crap. I mean, that's basically what you saw in that game is what you get for taking 2 months off, because there was just sloppiness all over the pitch. But at the same time, Bayern scored a goal that they took away, which they gave to Marcus Rashford against Manchester City for the exact same reasoning. So, as far as I'm concerned, that was a goal, and Bayern goes on probably to win that match. But I don't know, a lot of bad VAR across all the leagues on the weekend.
And they had Wi-Fi problems. Maybe that's what it was.
Well, the other thing too is, Italy, at least, like you see, I mean, Inter Milan made a final, and you have 3 teams through here in the what is it? Ace. You got 3 teams through in the Champions League round of 16. So at least like their teams are qualifying. Like the German teams, I mean, I guess they had 3 teams qualify as well. So, all right, I don't know. You just watch those leagues. I mean, Borussia Dortmund stinks. I watch that game. They're 4-3. I mean, they have no defense. They just have to outscore teams. I mean, those games are crazy. You can't watch. I could watch a couple minutes of it, and then I was like, I can't watch this league. I watch I'll watch the championship instead.
The Amedeus, we talked a little bit about the NFL before you got on. Any observations you want to make before we move on about the NFL this weekend? Yeah,
I mean, I don't know why everybody was on the Bills. That was so easy. The Bengals were going to win. Like, I can't believe people actually. That's all I saw all weekend. It was Bills -6, Bills -6, Bills -6. Like, maybe to win the game is one thing, but to clear 6 points was never going to happen. But yeah, I mean, it looks like the frauds were kicked out, and as far as I'm concerned, the 49ers are still the best team in the NFL, because you can say, oh, the Eagles looked great. Obviously, there's no issues there. They blew out the Giants. But at the same time, the 49ers played a much tougher team than the Eagles had to play. And they showed me in that game that, they can win games different ways. And that's what good teams do. You can win some games with your defense, and you can win other games by putting up 40 points on the opponent. Okay, they did the latter in the first round, and then yesterday we saw the former with the defense coming out to play.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Will Dak Prescott ever be in a Super Bowl?
I mean, ever.
There ain't that much ever left on Dak. Okay, let's be honest here.
Man, I doubt it.
No. I'm saying no.
The way the league is, the way the league is set up now. I mean, with the 49ers and the Seahawks are going to get a huge pick there early in the draft. They could get a quarterback here, CJ Stroud maybe. I don't think so. I mean, he's a very good regular season quarterback, but he's not a playoff quarterback.
That was Tony Romo.
Yeah, I think we've shown, but at some point that can't be just on the quarterback. That's the organization.
No, I'm not putting it totally on there.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, you know, we're seeing younger quarterbacks coming into the NFC. Yesterday, you got a guy who started his 8th game beat him. So you know, he made two errors that were very costly to them. You know, look, there's a time where the Cowboys are just, you know, they play good during the regular season and they just can't win in the off season. I mean, in the postseason. But one real quick stat for you guys that blew me away. We were talking about Cincinnati and Joe Burrows, right? In the 52 years prior to Burrows showing up, the Bengals had won 5 playoff games. Since Joe Burrows has got there, they've won 5 playoff games. So in his short period, he has equaled the 52-year history of the Bengals.
Yeah, you know, Burrow is a winner. You know, he won the national championship,
Sure.
won the Heisman Trophy. I mean, these guys are, you know, that's why I think, you know, you got to be careful. You know, everybody is on these quarterbacks coming out of college here, and you know, just, you know, talked about Stroud and stuff, but these guys don't win big games. You know, Burrow won a big game. You know, won the title in college. He led LSU out of nowhere to an undefeated season and the Heisman Trophy. He led Cincinnati to, you know, the back-to-back AFC championship. This guy's a winner. I mean, you have to, you know, these other guys, you know, Dak Prescott, Kyler, your guy Kyler Murray, you know,
Not my guy.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's, you know, Hurts. For as much as whatever, I mean, Hurts played at Alabama, won stuff. You know,
right.
he's a winner. These guys are winning cultures, winners. I mean, I think that's important. Some of these other guys, you know, that guy, you know, Josh Allen, what has he ever done? You know, he's a good, you know, he's a good quarterback. Justin Herbert, he's a good quarterback. Never won anything. You know, they throw for a lot of numbers. They throw for a lot of this. Never won anything. The guy hasn't won a, you know, Herbert. It's supposed to be, you know, they hasn't even won a division title over there yet. Like, they haven't even competed in the division, you know, with kids. Mahomes, you know, he wins stuff. You know, he's got to 2 Super Bowls. He's won 2 MVP awards. You know, he's won the Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl MVP. I mean, that's the difference between these teams. I think a lot of these, you know, people like to talk about these teams and these quarterbacks and stuff like this, but you know, there's a difference between, you know, a playoff quarterback and a winner, and that's why, you know, that's why people are always trying to get Nick Saban players. You know, they know when you get an Alabama player coming into the pros, you know that guy's going to do something. He's going to be a winner. You know, LSU, Jamar Chase, they won. These guys are winners. It's the same thing. I mean, it takes a while, you know, for in, you know, soccer. You see, it takes a while to build a culture like that. I mean, you know, AC Milan for so long was, you know, it was in the wilderness after they were dominant for so long, and then, you know, they bring guys in like, you know, is Giroud still there, right?
Yeah, Giroud's our guy.
Giroud and you know, he's a winner. He wins things.
It was really Zlatan that turned it around.
That guy Zlatan's a win. I mean, the guy goes everywhere he goes, he wins trophy. I mean, he was at Manchester United for 1 year and won 3 trophies. Like, the guy,
he brings the culture with him. That's the thing. Like, I remember I'll never forget the first thing he said when he came back to Milan like 2 years ago for his second stint. He was like, "This team doesn't want to win. They have absolutely no desire out on the pitch." And he criticized them publicly. So maybe, you know, the message got through the locker room, and look at that. 2 years later, you guys win a title. And he wasn't even playing, really, because he's been out injured.
It makes a difference. Well, winners win stuff.
Yeah. The other thing, guys, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, is the, you know, Amedeus and Sean, you both hit on it. from the coaching standpoint, right? Sometimes systems win. And if we look at what Kyle Shanahan has done, he doesn't have the superstar quarterback, but he has a superstar system that works. And so you're seeing his system be applied, and you're seeing these other guys who are, as you say, they've won things. So you can do that if you have a winning culture coaching-wise. You can do that if you have a winning culture player-wise. Look at how much of a change when Peterson took over in Jacksonville with, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, that was night and day. He turned the switch. They end up winning a division. They end up being in the playoffs. They played well in the playoffs. And there you go. I mean, that's, yes, absolutely. The system of a quarterback of Trevor Lawrence talent came from Clemson. Great, great system. But at the same time, when Peterson showed up, he proved the theory of the case is that you can win with a quarterback who's good if you show that quarterback how to win in the pros.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Doug Peterson's a great coach. And you know what? Even with the system thing, like the 49ers may have the star quarterback now. We don't know. They've said
you never know
that he's their starter next year. It would take a lot for Trey Lance to win the team back. But yeah, he's the guy. Like yesterday, like I know it was a 19-12 game, and you could say the offense wasn't great, but like they didn't really let Brock throw the ball a lot like they've been doing in other games. They really tried to
took a different tact. They ran a lot.
Yeah, they really tried to run it down the Cowboys' throat. And you know what? It ended up working because look at that. They kept the game close in the first half, which is what the 49ers do. They were losing that game to the Seahawks before they blew them out in the second half. They're a second half team. And sure enough, it's exactly what the 49ers did. They came out in the second half, pretty much held the Cowboys to no points in that second half. And by that time, the running had worn them down so much they couldn't even stop the 49ers in that fourth quarter. Like there was no chance they were stopping a drive.
Yep.
It's just good, solid play. So, all right, what's coming up this week in soccer, guys? There's a lot of stuff I know that you guys are on that we should be looking for.
Well, today is the big game in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Fulham and Tottenham. See who the real number 5 is.
Yeah, look, Tottenham's on the ropes, man. If Tottenham doesn't get a win here, I think their top 4 is shot. I think it is anyway. But Fulham, I need Fulham here. Fulham to show up. Maybe Fulham get a draw. Fulham get a result here. I think it will be interesting.
They beat Chelsea at home. They can beat Tottenham. Tottenham and Chelsea are just like a shell of the same team with their issues anyway.
I think
other.
Yeah, I think the other games that are big. Obviously, you got the I'm trying to hold on. Let me look at this here. Backwards. All right. Today, other leagues are a little bit slower today. You got PSG plays. U.S. pays to Cassel in the Coupe de France, and that'll be 8-0. Tomorrow, you got the Carabao Cup. First leg, Southampton, Newcastle. Everyone is on the Saints, I think, in this game. Everyone is rooting for the little guys against the richest team in the world. We like to see little guys come out and win against big teams like Newcastle, like backed by the richest conglomerate on earth.
All right, you heard him. It's going to be Southampton, Nottingham Forest. That's your Carabao Cup.
It'll not be. I'm going to England, so better be Manchester United. There's an FA Cup game tomorrow. Accrington Stanley and Boreham Wood. I think it was canceled because of the weather. The first and then the next leg was a tie. Lazio plays Inter Milan tomorrow in Serie A. That's an interesting game there for you, huh?
Lazio and Inter Milan. I mean,
Lazio and AC Milan.
oh, Lazio and AC Milan. Oh, okay. I mean,
Lazio was back up into the Premier and into the top 4 places. Now Roma is in that top 4.
Lazio's not going anywhere.
AC Milan, Inter Milan, Roma 38, 37, 37, Atalanta 35, Lazio 34. Now all of a sudden Atalanta gets a little lifeline because Juventus is out, and they're looking, hey, now maybe we could get back into the Champions League and keep our team together, which would be interesting. The Bundesliga is, Bayern Munich, Cologne. I didn't even see the line. I think it was like $1 million. They're minus $1 million, and they probably won't cover.
It's minus 500.
That's close enough to $1 million.
I don't know how you bet this Bayern Munich team at this point.
How do you bet the German league? Period.
Yeah, it's really hard it's really hard. I gave it out. I'm going to give it out tonight on the by the book on NBC, but I just don't know. Wednesday you got a huge day. You got Forest and United in the first leg at Forest. You got 5 Bundesliga games. Mainz and Dortmund. Freiburg and Frankfurt, I guess, is a big game now because both those teams are it's 2 and 4 right now. They're both of them are in European play. Frankfurt right now is up into 2nd place in the Bundesliga. They're 5 points back of Bayern Munich, which is crazy. No one. Yeah, I can't imagine they're gonna pass them there. But you got the Copa del Rey. Round of 16. It must be the quarterfinals. Barcelona against Sociedad, Osasuna, Sevilla. And then on Thursday, you have Villarreal. Sorry, Villarreal's out after last week. You got Valencia, Bilbao, and Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. This is Atletico Madrid's first match at home in the Copa del Rey since 2020, 3 years. Usually they're out by now. Thursday, just went through that. Benfica, Pacos de Ferreira. And Friday, you got the start of the FA Cup. You got Manchester City, Arsenal, which is a massive game. One of those 2 teams will be out. When you start to look at the odds for some of these things, the future odds right now, Manchester United is plus 400. And that Manchester City, everyone expects City to beat Arsenal. It'd be interesting to see what Arsenal does here. If I was Arsenal, I would bin off the FA Cup because you're still in the Europa League. I think they have to take the Europa League a little more seriously because they've never won a European Cup. They've got to the final in 2006 of the Champions League, and they got to the final in 2019. Lost both games. 2-1, I believe. Both games. They lost to Barcelona and they lost to Chelsea. So I think they need to take that a little more seriously. But, who knows? I mean, they might say the Premier League is bigger than the Europa League. I would try to go for those 2. The FA Cup, it's just – look, you could put your strongest lineup out there on Friday and still lose to City. So, I'll be interested to see what both of these teams do. Because maybe they both put – weekend lineups out and say whoever gets through, go ahead and win it or something, or try to win it. So there's pretty good games. Saturday in the Carabao Cup, or not the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, you got Fulham, Sunderland. There's not a lot of great games, to be honest, on Saturday. Not a lot of great matchups. You got Sunday, you got Brighton, Liverpool, Wrexham, Sheffield United, and Monday you got Derby County, West Ham. So not a lot of glamour ties. Really, the glamour tie of the round is Friday, and by then, after you get through that, that's when you talk about the odds to win the FA Cup. I mean, it's interesting because, there's not that many teams left in it that are near the top of the table. You got Arsenal and City. One of those two teams is out. You got Manchester United. Newcastle's out. Tottenham is out. Oh no, Tottenham plays Preston North End. That's right. Hopefully they go out. Liverpool's still in it, but they play Brighton. So it's you got. I think people just kind of think it's going to be one of these things where, I would say City and Arsenal probably put their focus somewhere else. I think for Manchester United, they got to finish top 4, but a trophy would be nice. You're real close in the Carabao Cup, so we'll see. We'll see what they do. Maybe Manchester United wins the Mickey Mouse treble, FA, Carabao, and Europa League like Liverpool did in 2001.
We're getting close to the knockout stage. We're about 2 weeks away from the knockout stage in the Champions League.
Yeah, about 3. Starts the
14th or something.
Yeah, Valentine's Day. Yeah, look, I mean, I think we're gonna start. You're gonna start ramping up there. When you look at those games, I mean, right away, AC Milan, Tottenham. Milan is favored there at home, and then PSG, Bayern Munich. That's the first games on that day there, the 14th. Actually be flying that day. I'm gonna have to make sure I get to Barcelona early enough to see those, and then you got Dortmund, Chelsea, Bruges, and Benfica the next day. So some pretty interesting matchups. I think that first. All of a sudden, Borussia Dortmund was, this heavy underdog against Chelsea, and now, the first leg. I mean, it's an even. It's they're both plus 163.
So, who do we think is going to make the knockout round?
Who's going to win the round of 16?
I'm just saying, who are some of the favorites? Who are some of the teams we should be looking at for the knockout round?
I like Napoli. I think Napoli gets by Frankfurt. I don't know. What do you think about this Bruges and Benfica?
I mean, I still think Benfica is the better team. If you've been watching Club Bruges in Belgium lately, they've sucked since the restart. They're struggling to win games.
Inter Porto to me is interesting.
Inter Milan's been on fire lately. They're gonna, if they keep up the way they've been playing for the next month, then they're gonna crush Porto. It's not even gonna be a competition.
I think City probably rolls Leipzig, Liverpool, Real Madrid. I think that'll be interesting. As bad as Liverpool's played at times, sometimes Real Madrid doesn't play fantastic, but finds ways to get results. They did it all last year.
Real Madrid will lose this one, and then they'll make a comeback in the second leg in the second half somehow. When you watch that game, did you watch that game on Saturday? Which one? The
Chelsea Liverpool.
Oh, Chelsea Liverpool. Yeah, I did. I thought Mudryk was actually pretty good in the Chelsea lineup. But,
maybe that's a good signing for 100 million.
I was gonna say he gave a lot of like the thing he was giving something Chelsea was lacking, and same with Joao Felix in the match he played. It was that aggressiveness. You hadn't seen that from Chelsea. They like to just kind of sit back, but Mudryk was getting out into space, and even Felix in the game he played, he was taking shots. It was all about actually creating scoring chances. So I'm interested to see how those two play together when Felix is eligible to come back. But
I think right now, I mean, this is the draw for the quarterfinals could be really interesting if some of these teams get through. I mean, I'd love to see, if AC Milan and Inter get through, that would be pretty interesting. They wouldn't even home would be at the same stadium. You wouldn't even have to go anywhere.
Didn't you watch that Super Cup?
Uber
We
Eats.
don't need to watch Inter AC Milan again. We know what's
Yeah,
gonna
2
happen.
legs though. That Super Cup is like wank. They don't even like. They weren't even trying in that. Like,
Oh, they were trying. I watched the game. They were trying, and they just like couldn't get it
They
done.
just weren't succeeding.
Yeah, they just sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they weren't trying so much in the first half, but once they got down 2 goals, it was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I guess we should try a little bit.
Quick.
Yeah, I think that I think Napoli could make a run here. Just with their squad. It's gonna. My guess will be. I think Milan could come through that. I really do. I don't know if Tottenham is that good. The second leg at Tottenham, though, I guess is pretty big. There's no away goals at this point. I think PSG beats Bayern Munich. If PSG's healthy, I think they win that. That's a big if, though, because they're not healthy right now.
It's not just healthy. Are they happy?
Well, there never is. That thing
Has
is.
to be healthy.
Poppy could throw a fit and be like, I'm not going to play in the Champions League. Then fine. Who knows?
Dortmund, Chelsea. I think Chelsea will probably get through that. I think they'll have enough. I mean, as bad as they've been, I think they have made some pretty good signings here. Like, not all of them are going to be able to play, but I think they have made some pretty good signings. Benfica probably goes through. Napoli goes through. I think Madrid goes through. Inter and City. So, you could have 3
Italian teams?
Premier League clubs. You could have 3 Italian clubs. You could have a couple German. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I just think, when you look at the futures odds, City at plus 180, I don't know. I don't know if they're the best team. And they look very good at times, and they look like crap at times. I think over the course of 2, 4, 6, 7, 3 2-legged ties if they get there, and a final, City is probably the better team, but Pep finds a way to lose these games. Like, if they have to play like Tottenham in there at some point, they're in trouble. If they have to play like Real Madrid, like, they're probably in trouble. They should win. They're the best team, but I just don't know. I mean, when you look at, I just don't know. Like, PSG's a mess. Bayern Munich's a mess. Chelsea and Dortmund are both messes. Bruges and Benfica aren't good enough to win the tournament. Frankfurt's not good enough to win the tournament. Napoli, maybe, but, still, I'm still a little doubts. Liverpool's not good enough to win the tournament, I don't think, unless they get on the run. Real Madrid could, obviously, they did last year. Inter and Porto, you said Inter got hot. Maybe Inter makes a deep run. I don't know. So, I guess that's why City's the favorite, because everybody else kind of just stinks. It's a weird year for it's not like I thought last year and the year before was a little bit like the teams were just deeper. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just a weird.
So basically, you're saying what we got here is a lot more have-nots than haves.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, you're going to have these teams in the quarterfinals that are Inter or Porto. Inter's been playing better, but Amedeus, do you think Inter could win this tournament?
I think Inter or Napoli could win it if they keep up the way they're playing, because I think the World Cup kind of screwed up a lot of teams. Like, if you notice, the Real Madrids, the PSGs, they were extremely hot that first half of the season. And they've cooled right off coming out of the break, probably because, their star players are players that were involved deeper in the tournament.
That's why I think Munich's going to be in trouble in that tie, because they're like a month behind these other teams, and
they played so sloppy on Friday. Like, you can't take 2 months off and then expect to come out and look good. Like, that was terrible.
I think that's going to catch up to them at some point, because they're once again, they're the first tie, so it's 3 weeks from now. Like, PSG is going to be PSG's ramping up. They've been playing for a month, and Munich hasn't. I mean, I think that extra month is going to be big.
And that's what I mean. Like, it's going to be important for Bayern to get in form quick, because they were super sloppy against Leipzig, and Leipzig's probably, second best team in Germany right now. So, because they've been in great form too. So yeah, that's one where, like, I'm with you. You gotta see what these teams do in the next month, because if Bayern's not gaining steam going into that fixture, they're not beating PSG.
Yep. Yeah, and I think you could say the same for some of these, Chelsea, Dortmund. I mean, look, Chelsea hasn't been playing great, but they're a month ahead of Dortmund. Napoli, Frankfurt. Napoli's a month ahead. Leipzig and Manchester City. Look, City's probably 3 years ahead at that point. So
City's 3 squads ahead.
Yeah, look, I mean, you got 4 German teams through to the round of 16, and they're all at a disadvantage. I mean, the only good thing for the German teams is all 4 of them, or 3 of the 4 outside of Bayern Munich, play at home first, so you could build up a lead. Once again, the away goals don't count, but if you can go and if Borussia Dortmund wins 3-0 or 3-1, you go to Chelsea, you have a chance to win the tie. So
not with that defense.
Yeah, at least you give yourself a chance. Like if you lose 3-0 at home, you got no chance. But
you just got to stop them from scoring 2 goals. Okay, so we lose.
Yeah, exactly. But it'll be interesting. And then you got the day after the first 2 legs, you got the Europa League playoffs. That's going to be, I'll be at the Barcelona, Manchester United tie in Barcelona, but you got Ajax and Union Berlin. I think that's a really good tie. Ajax stinks right now. They're in 5th. They've been playing awful. The coach is terrible. They want him out. Salzburg plays Roma. That's an interesting. Shakhtar plays Rennes. Very interesting. Leverkusen, Monaco, interesting. Juventus against Nantes. Juventus minus 315. I have no idea why. Sevilla, who's been atrocious, but finally got a win against PSV Eindhoven, and Sporting Lisbon and Midtjylland. So pretty good ties in the playoffs there as well.
Even with these Champions League matches, a lot of them are pretty evenly matched. Like AC Milan, Tottenham, those are both garbage. Throw them in the trash. Bayern Munich, PSG, obviously, 2 powerhouses going head to head there. Dortmund and Chelsea, 2 teams that are supposed to be somewhat good in their leagues, but really aren't as good as they're supposed to be. Club Brugge, Benfica, I would say is pretty evenly matched. Maybe not so much now. I think Benfica is, but then again, Benfica I don't think has been playing that well lately either. Not just Club Brugge. So interesting one. Probably Napoli's the biggest lopsided match on the board. I think they're way better than Frankfurt. Even with Liverpool, Real Madrid, you got 2 teams there that are extremely better at home and tend to kind of suck on the road, be a little lazy.
So is this a year that somebody sneaks in and steals?
Yeah, I think Napoli can do it.
Yeah, it could be. Now, like you said, Napoli.
And like I said, if they really think they can't retain their players, right, and they're going to have to sell everybody in the summer, they know they're going to win the league with such the big lead they have. This just might be the year. Let's go win the league. Let's go win Champions League. Let's go. Oh, they're out of the cup now. They lost to Cremonese, but that's what I mean. Let's go win the Champions League and win the title. And I think that's a very successful year. And then if you want to sell the entire team, go back into a drought for another decade, I mean, go ahead. But yeah, I think that's the way, especially if you tell me now they're being investigated for the Osimhen deal. Yeah. So if they're going to end up having to sell players, this is the year they got to make a push. All right. And,
yeah, we got to go deep.
At this point, even with a point deduction, if they were given the same point deduction as Juventus, they'd still be in second place.
I think the Juventus thing was a systematic, it was a disaster. This is just one deal. I mean, which could, still could be bad, but the Juventus thing sounds like it's systematic for a long time.
It's always systematic with Juventus. Okay, you could probably loop it back to 2010 somehow. Still,
yeah, it's embarrassing how they do that.
All right,
so the league's embarrassing.
Perhaps we could see a little bit of a sneaky situation where they come in. A team you're not looking for, you might get some value here and get somebody, put some money on somebody who you don't expect to win, but might just steal that trophy at the end.
Yeah, Napoli's the one, I think.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'll give you a couple here. Napoli right now is plus 1,300, plus 225 top four, plus 550 to get to the final. I think that's interesting. And the other team I would say is Real Madrid. They're plus 1,100, plus 550 to finish top two. I mean, but look, if they get to they're 14-0 in finals. If they get to the final, they're not losing. And plus 225 to make the semifinals. I think if Real Madrid if they get past Liverpool, those odds are going to drop. Napoli's odds, they're plus 1,300 against a club that they're. Let me just see they're what are they to advance here? They're minus 230 to advance. Real Madrid is minus 105. They're actually the underdog against Liverpool's minus 118 to advance. So, if Real Madrid gets through this tie, depending on what their draw is, obviously if they draw Manchester City, it won't change too much. But if Real Madrid gets through this tie, their odds are going to drop like crazy. I mean, they'll be down to like plus 400 probably, or plus 500. Same thing that happened, last year. They were 2,500 after the first leg at PSG, and even after they won, when they played Chelsea, they were like still like stupid money. I won like a ton on Real Madrid last year. So, I would say probably Real Madrid and Napoli. I just, can Tottenham do it? I doubt it. Benfica, yes, they're talented. I don't think they can, I know they beat PSG, but, Inter's interesting, plus 2,800. So plus 400 to make the. If you think Inter beats Porto, they're plus 400 to make a semifinal. Like that, to me, that's good money right there, because, if they beat Porto, they only have to win one more draw, and there's going to be, there's going to be some teams in the draw that they could beat. I mean, it's almost like a value play at that point. Like, look, if they play, if they get drawn against Manchester City, they're probably not beating them. But, if they get drawn against Chelsea or Dortmund or AC Milan, Tottenham, or Bruges, Benfica, I think they would think they could probably win that. So, like, that's actually probably decent value to me.
Yeah, like I said, I think definitely could be one of the two Italian teams, not mine, but one of the other two to go all the way, get it done. They're getting hot at the right times.
Well, we talked about that in the NFL, and now it translates into World Cup. International soccer.
Also, if you look at Napoli's schedule, it's like they set them up perfectly for the Champions League. So leading into the Champions League, they got to play Spezia, Cremonese, and then Sassuolo that weekend. So, or I think that's on the Friday even. They get the Friday match. Then they go and they play Frankfurt the first leg on the the Tuesday, I think. So they play them on the Tuesday. And then so they're going to have the short week after that. They play Empoli on the short week. Then they get almost like quite a few, I would say about like 5 days off ish. And they get, they play Lazio, which is a little bit of a tougher match. And then they get a full week off, play Atalanta, which is a little bit of a tougher match. And then they have to play the second leg of that match, which I believe is on the Wednesday that time around. And then they play Torino after. So they kind of set them up with a pretty, soft schedule for them around that time.
Yeah. Napoli's, that would be the team to me. I mean, they absolutely dominated the group stage. That would be the team to me. I mean, they were 5-0 and with a plus 20 goal difference after five matches, and didn't need to win the sixth match. So basically told Liverpool, like, go see, you want to score 4 against us, go ahead and beat us, but they couldn't. So that's probably, that would be my two, Napoli and Real Madrid. But I think Napoli. But once again, I mean, it all. If you want to wait until after this, this leg, you'll see what the draw is. But you're going to lose some value if they get through. But you might gain some if Napoli's draw to the final is Manchester City, Real Madrid, and somebody they're probably not going to win it. But if their draw is Benfica, the winner of Inter and Borussia Dortmund, and then a final. I mean, they might be, there you go. I mean, those odds, their odds to make the top four obviously crash. They'll be down to minus money, but you definitely can make some money. I think there's ways to make some money on these, and staying away from maybe Manchester City at this point. Because Manchester City's not winning the title. They're cursed.
They've got the big scarlet letter against them.
If they didn't win against Chelsea that time, they're never winning. They just think about I'm gonna go through this. Because they I don't need to see that. I want to see what they did. Here we go. Last year, they got through the round of 16. They played Sporting. They beat them 5-0 in the second leg. They played a terrible Atletico Madrid team, and it was the two worst ties in the history of the Champions League. It was absolute terror ball for 2 games watching it, and they won that tie 1-0. They beat Madrid 4-3 in the first leg, and they were up in the second leg with literally stoppage time to go and ended up giving up 2 goals in stoppage time and then losing in extra time. They were up 5-3 on aggregate in the 90th minute of the second leg and got beat. The year before, they beat Borussia Mönchengladbach, Borussia Dortmund, and then PSG, got to the final, lost to Chelsea. The year before that was the COVID year. They lost to Lyon 3-1 in the quarterfinals. Like, come on, man. This is after they beat Real Madrid. They lost to Tottenham in the quarterfinals. Tottenham. The year before that, they lost to Liverpool over 2 legs after losing 2-1 to Basel in the round of 16. The year before that, they lost to Monaco. They were up 5-3 after the first leg, and then Kylian Mbappe went crazy. They scored like 5 goals in the tie, and they lost to Monaco. They lost in the semifinal to Real Madrid in 2016. Before that, they lost to Barcelona in the round of 16 twice. Like, this team has never, you lost to Tottenham in the quarterfinals, and they would have won that title. They lost to Chelsea. They lost to Lyon. Like, all these ties, they would have won. They were the better team. And they just don't win. Last year, there's no way. If they get to the final, they would have killed Liverpool in the final. Real Madrid beat them. So, it is what it is. I mean, they just – I mean, at some point, they're going to win. Just by dumb luck, they're going to win a Champions League. I mean, maybe it's this year. Maybe it's next year. Maybe it's the year after that. I mean, you can't spend $3 billion over the course of 15 years and not win something.
You hope not.
Well, yeah, I mean, PSG's done the same, and they really haven't won anything either.
You can't just own the league for a whole decade.
Right.
Win
Yeah,
nothing else.
I mean, look, that's the thing, man. Nobody cares if City people don't even Manchester United fans don't even care. They're actively rooting for. Some of them are actively rooting for City to win the title over Arsenal, just because the Arsenal fans are the worst. City's just they're just there's about 12 fans in all of Manchester. There's they were a nothing club until they were bought. They lost to Middlesbrough 8-1 the year before they were bought by by this team. And, it's just crazy. PSG's the same way. It's whatever. I mean, PSG's owners are actively looking to sell the club to buy Manchester United at this point. Like, that just tells you, like, it's just an absolute mess there. But, at some point, if it all stays the same over the next whatever, PSG will win one. And, all these teams find ways. Like Chelsea eventually, won one after Abramovich spent all that money in 2012. And it was the one that they weren't supposed to win. They
playing Tuchel ball all the way to victory.
Well, no, that was the second one. The first one was they beat Bayern Munich in Bayern Munich. Like Bayern Munich hosted the final and lost.
Wow,
that's But,
that's pretty grim.
Yeah, yep, yeah. It's not very good. And they lost on penalties there, and then that was a fluke. That was the year. They got to Di Matteo, got them just. I mean, it was just crazy. And then they won the Europa League the next year. They won the Champions League and got knocked out in the next round, and then went down and won the Europa League. But and then they won in 2021. But once again, I mean, that game was terrible. So I mean, at some point, City will win. I mean, it could be this year. I wouldn't be stunned, but if they don't win this year, the problem for City is if they don't win soon, you're going to have to deal with Newcastle in your league and Manchester United again in your league, and all these other clubs that might have a little bit more of a draw, than City. City's winning these titles because they're, City and Chelsea have been down. So, they've been spending billions and billions. And I mean, you see what Chelsea's done. I mean, it's crazy. They spent $500 million this year, $600 million. So at some point, all these, Newcastle, clearly is ahead of schedule. Manchester United is they're clearly ahead of schedule as soon as they get this new owners and stuff like this. So, if City doesn't win it soon, their window of opportunity is going to shrink because, these teams that used to compete with them are now getting better. And, all of a sudden there's more teams with more money, maybe not from Italy or, Germany, but now in England. So now it's going to be a battle each year to stay on top. You got Arsenal and Manchester United and Newcastle and Liverpool's going to spend money. And, it's going to be a battle just to get back into the Champions League every year at some point soon. So they got to win one soon.
They got to take advantage of their window.
Yeah. Don't be like my Sharks and piss it away. And then give Eric Carlson $80 million to ruin the rest of your team so you can't sign anybody else and then end up trading him 5 years later.
That would be bad.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. I'm saying it would be bad. That's all.
It's going to happen.
It doesn't it does not look good when these things happen.
No.
So anyway. All right, boys. Any final thoughts before we get out of here on an interestingly wet day here on the East Coast on Monday? We talked about the NFL playoffs. We talked about some things that are coming up soccer-wise this week. We'll talk a little bit more tomorrow about some tennis where Djokovic's leg suddenly is healing, and that is not good for the rest of the people on the men's side as we get closer to the finals of the Australian Open. So all that good stuff coming tomorrow. Anything else, boys, before we get out of here today?
That's about it.
Okay. All right, then. For Sean, from Amedeus, I'm Jim. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Please be here with us. We enjoy having you, and hopefully you learn something. I know I do. All right. Take care, boys. Bye-bye.